Hi folks, thanks for watching this video from Florida Homestead Check. My name is Blake Deal and I'm the CEO and Chief Counsel for Florida Homestead Check. And we're hoping that today we'll be able to explain a little bit more to you about how the homestead laws work and how portability works in Florida. It's something that we found that not many people understand and not many people take advantage of. And our goal at Florida Homestead Check is to help realtors and title agents and the public also to take full advantage of all the savings that the law offers in Florida with our homestead laws, especially portability. So a little bit about myself. I've been a real estate closing attorney for a little over 24 years. I went to the University of Florida and have practiced primarily in the Northeast Florida area. Years ago, I was trained when I started doing closings that towards the end of the closing, I would give a little short speech to the folks that I was handling the closing for that basically said, welcome to Florida. We have some laws here called the homestead laws, and it can save you a lot of money. There's a $50,000 exemption that will save you about $1,000 a year on your taxes. And you really want to remember to file for it. It'll also keep your taxes from going up more than 3% a year. And you have until March the 1st to file. And here's a little information sheet that we're going to give you that'll tell you more about filing. And that was pretty much the speech that we gave. Started giving that speech probably, I guess it was 1996. And portability got passed by the Florida legislature in 2008. And none of us realized how much more complicated portability made things. And none of us realized that there was a need for a lot more to the speech. And actually, when portability came along, it made the speech not good enough anymore. I realized this because in doing closings, I started having clients come back who were really upset because they found out that they didn't have as much portability as they thought they should have had. And they were kind of upset with us as being the closing agent and feeling like we didn't warn them, we didn't explain them. And so at one point I finally scratched my head and said, this is just not going to work anymore, doing the little speech at the end of the closing. I'm only telling people about 10% of what they need to know, and I'm telling them too late for them to do anything about the important things that might need to be addressed if they're selling or buying a home. And that led to my idea to start Florida Homestead Check. The whole point of our company is to help clients save money on their property taxes, and we have created a very easy to use online tool called a Homestead Check that will allow anyone who's buying or selling a house in Florida to go onto our website, put in some easy information, and in less than 5 minutes have back a full analysis of their homestead tax filing situation. We'll go into more detail about it here in just a second, but it also includes a free one-on-one consultation with one of our property tax specialists. And we encourage realtors to make people aware of this as early as possible in the process. And we encourage title agents to hopefully incorporate it into their closing process so that these folks can get helped before it's too late. Because most of the time, if you go ahead and close the transaction and there were some things that needed to be fixed, it's going to be too late to fix them at that point. So that's just a little intro into what we're doing, and I've come up with a little presentation. It's fairly short, and I'm going to walk through a few slides with you that the purpose of this is to help give you the foundations of the Florida homestead law so that you understand the basics and can at least explain them. And the whole point of our product is that you don't have to become an expert on it. You can just tell people, hey, the laws are complicated. We recommend that you get this stuff checked out before you go any further. And then if there's something that needs to be done, get it done before it's too late. And it allows you to just refer them to a source of help without having to be an expert. But we do want you to know some of the basics. So I want to walk you through the slides now. So we'll be switching our screen over now to the slide presentation. And here we go. So what is the problem? The problem is that about 1/3 of Floridians who are eligible for homestead don't even file for it. These folks move down to Florida, they get a realtor most of the time, they hire a closing agent to handle their closing. They go through the entire process and somehow don't even know that they're supposed to file for homestead. And that's a real shame because it costs them a lot of money when that happens. We believe that about 2/3 of people don't file for portability if it's not handled automatically by their county. If you are moving from one point to another in the same county, some counties that have online filing portals will automatically help you with portability filing. But if you're moving from outside the county in or inside the county out, then you would not have automatic portability filing, and most people don't realize it's a separate filing. It involves a lot of money. So because people don't know about it, they don't know to do the separate filing and they don't get the benefits. The other is that many Floridians don't file for exemptions that they're eligible for. Everybody knows there's the basic $50,000 exemption that saves you about $1,000 a year on your property taxes, but many people don't realize that there are a couple dozen other exemptions. Some of them can be a full exemption from having to pay any property tax at all. Some of them are less money than that, but they all can save you money. And it's kind of difficult to find out about them. If you go to your local property appraiser's homepage and you look, you'll probably find that it's a little bit of a treasure hunt trying to figure out all these different exemptions. And a homestead check automatically handles that for people. So we believe that as much as about $5 billion a year is overpaid in property taxes every year in Florida. That's a huge number, and it's a real shame because the laws were put into place to give people these benefits. But the way that the system is designed, the default position is you don't get to save the money. You have to make the proper filings, and you have to know what to file for, and you have to keep up with it. And if you don't, you won't get the benefits. I hate to say that the system is rigged against the taxpayers, but that would be kind of like saying that the federal income tax system's rigged against the taxpayer. The bottom line is, if you don't get someone to help you, and you don't take advantage of the benefits and exemptions and things that are there, you will pay more in tax. And property tax in Florida works the same way. Now, if you're a realtor who's been in business for a long time and you're sitting here saying, well, this has never been an issue before, why is this just coming up now? I've been doing this for 30 years. The reason that it's a big issue now is because portability wasn't even passed until 2008. And portability keys off of rising market values. So think about 2008. Did we have market values rising? No, we didn't. We were in the midst of the Great Recession, and it lasted until about 2011 or 12 before property values started going up again. So we really should have started paying attention to this stuff in 2013, 2014, but pretty much no one has. And every day I hear from another person saying, I'm trying to find out about portability. No one seems to know anything about it. So hopefully after this, you will know a little bit about it. But the bottom line is that portability made things way more complicated. I don't think that the legislature realized how much more complicated it made things, but it really did. So how can we help? Florida Homestead Check was founded to provide an easy to use and affordable tool to homeowners and real estate professionals so that they don't have to study and learn and understand all the complicated laws. It takes the burden completely off of you, and it completely protects the homeowner. And we don't just identify the solutions, we also we don't just identify the issues, we also offer the solutions. We provide a one-on-one personal consultation with each person that gets a homestead check. So that's a lot of value for the price. If there is something wrong, we'll tell you how much money is involved, and we'll tell you step by step how to fix it. So let's do our little lesson on homestead now. We'll try and keep it really short. This video is intended to last about 30 minutes. And so I'm going to run through it fairly quickly. You can rewind and watch it as many times as you want to. But the first thing that you have to know is, what is a homestead? Your homestead is the place that you reside with the intention to permanently remain. And that permanent is a very important word, because if you don't intend to permanently be there, you can't file homestead. You can only have one. You don't have to be a U.S. citizen. As long as you are in the United States legally and the nature by which you are here, be it a visa or asylum even, a green card holder, anything that allows you to be here permanently, you'll be able to file for homestead. Now, a very important thing to understand is how you establish your homestead. There are 3 steps to it. The first is you need to purchase it, obviously. You need to move into it, and you need to change your driver's license to that address. Changing your driver's license to that address is your way of saying, I intend to permanently remain here. If you don't have a driver's license, you can file an affidavit that says that you intend to permanently remain here, and it'll serve the same purpose. But those 3 things have to happen. Purchase it, move in, and change your driver's license to that address. Once you've done those 3 things, you have established your homestead. Now, when you establish your homestead, you don't automatically get the benefits. They're not automatic. You have to file for them. The form that you use is the Florida DR 501 form. It has to be filed with your county property appraiser's office. Now, every year, your last date for filing the DR 501 form is March the 1st of the following year. So if today is September the 25th of 2020, and I purchase, move in to my home and change my driver's license, thereby establishing my homestead, if I do that today in September of 2020, then I have until March 1st of 2021 to file for homestead. I can go ahead and do it early, and it's a good idea to do it, but you don't want to wait until past March the 1st. Now, my homestead will become effective on January 1 of the year following in which I established my homestead. So again, if it's September of 2020 today, and I establish my homestead and I file for it, it will become effective January 1 of 2021. Even if I wait to file for it until March, it's still effective January 1st of 2021. So let's talk about the foundation of homestead law in Florida. It's called the Save Our Homes Act. Many of you may be familiar with it. For you to really understand how it works, there's some basic concepts that you need to understand. The first basic concept is market value. What is the definition of market value? The law says that every January 1st, the property appraiser in each county is to determine the market value of properties within that county. And market value means just what it says. It means what would the home sell for between a willing buyer and a willing seller in a reasonable period of time. So every January 1, it has to be determined by the property appraiser. So whenever we argue that we think that market value is not correct, we're not arguing about it as of whatever day we're making that argument. We're arguing about it as of January 1st of that year. So when you first buy a home in Florida, the following January 1, you're going to have your first market valuation. And it should be about 85% of the purchase price, as long as the purchase price was in line with comps. Now, if you get the best deal in the world and you steal the property, your market value is probably going to be set a little higher than what you paid, because you're not going to be rewarded for doing better than the comps. Conversely, if you overpaid for the property, you won't be punished. Your market value will be probably lower than what you paid, because again, you paid more than the comps. Why 85% of the purchase price? It's because Florida has a law that says that the property appraisers have to discount the market valuation to account for the cost of sale of the property. Your taxes, fees, real estate commissions, things like that. And the law says that it can be as much as 15%. Most property appraisers use that 15% number, so that's why we expect the initial valuation of the property, the market value, to be about 85% of what you paid for it, and that determination again will take place on January 1st after you buy it. So the other term that you need to understand is assessed value. The definition of assessed value is it's the market value adjusted by the Save Our Homes Act. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But the important thing to realize is that the market value and the assessed value start off at the same point. I'm going to go ahead and bring up a graph here that shows you how it works. You can see when you look at the purple line and the green line on this graph to the right that the purple line and the green line start at the same point. That's because your market value and your assessed value start out the same. But now here's the key provision of the Save Our Homes Act. If the property has been homesteaded, then the assessed value cannot go up any more than 3% a year, or the consumer price index, whichever is less. So that basically means that your assessed value, which is the value on which your taxes are based, can only go up about what inflation is. If you look over here to the right at the green line, you see your assessed value growth over time is very slow. It's a very flat line. For example, in our county, this year, St. Johns County, the property appraiser mailed out a little letter that said CPI for this year, I believe, was 1.65. And so I'm going ahead and raising all the assessed values in the county by 1.65%. It's a very important thing to understand that you do not pay taxes on your market value. You pay taxes based off of your assessed value. Say that like 3 times because it's a really tough thing for people to understand, but it's very important. So as the years go by, the homeowner still pays taxes on about what they paid for the property adjusted for inflation. You see how your assessed value doesn't go up much. But what can your market value do? Your market value can and should move with the market. Every January 1st, that property appraiser should basically be saying, how much do I think that this property would sell for? And he should be setting that market value. So you see the purple line, how it sort of curves, but it goes up over time, showing what the market value did. Now look at how there's a difference between that purple line and the green line that's shaded blue, and that's what we call your homestead savings. That is also called portability. So the difference in your market value and your assessed value is portability. So ask yourself, do you want more portability or less portability? Since portability acts as an exemption against your taxes, you want as much portability as you can get. We're talking a little bit more detail on the next slide about portability, but as you can see, the higher your market value is, the more portability you have. And everyone's first reaction is to say, whoa, I don't want my market value to be high. That'll cost me money in taxes. Again, remember, you do not pay taxes on your market value if you have a homestead property. You pay it on the assessed value. So there is only an advantage to your market value being higher. Take a look at the bottom part of the slide on the right, and it gives you a little example of how portability works. Look at the assessed value being $220,000 and the market value being $350,000. So the difference between those two is $130,000, which you see as your portability there. But let's say that that market value was not accurate. Let's say that it should have been higher. It should have been $580,000. So now you can see that the difference between $580,000 and $220,000 is $360,000. That's how much portability you should have. Now that is a very important thing to realize, because many of you may realize that in August of every year you get this thing in the mail called a truth in millage notice, a trim notice. That is required in all counties in Florida, and what the trim notice really does is it's the property appraiser saying on January 1st, this is what I came up with as your market value. And if you disagree with it, please give us a call, and if necessary, you can file a VAB, Value Adjustment Board petition. Most people get that trim notice. They're living in a house that's worth, say, $500,000. They know it's worth about $500,000, but they look at their trim notice and see that it says that their market value of their house is only $300,000. And they think, ooh, I'm getting away with something. The property appraiser doesn't know how much my house is worth. Well, that's not good. You're not getting away with anything. Your market value is lower than it should be, and you're going to have less portability than you should have. And if you go to sell your home, that's going to cost you a lot of money, because it'll be that much less portability that you'll have to use on your next home. So now let's talk in a little bit more detail about portability. Okay, portability can be up to $500,000. It acts as an exemption against the taxable value of your home. You can take it with you from home to home to home in Florida. And as we mentioned, portability is equal to your market value minus your assessed value. So if you consider that the average tax rate in Florida is about 2%, if you have $500,000 in portability, that's like getting $10,000 a year off your tax bill. It will lower your tax bill by $10,000. So it can be a lot of money. Every $100,000 in portability that you get is about $2,000 a year off your tax bill. But there's three big catches to portability. The first one is you don't have forever to move from one house to the next and keep your portability. The rule is that you have to establish your new homestead by the end of the year following the year in which you sold it, your prior homestead. So if I sell my house today in September of 2020, I have until December the 31st of 2021 to establish my new homestead. And remember, how do we establish? We purchase it, we move into it, we change our driver's license to that address. So as long as I move in and change my driver's license and purchase the property, as long as I do that by December 31st of the year following when I sold, I can move my portability. Now here's a big issue with that. The problem is you have to remember to file for it. Many people know to go and file for a homestead, but they don't know that it's a separate filing for portability. So that's the second catch. You've got to file a separate form, which is the DR 501T form. Now, the third catch is you want as much portability as possible. So before you sell your home, you want to make sure that your market value is accurate. You don't want to be one of these folks that's living in a $500,000 home, but you're seeing that your market value on your trim notice is only $350,000. That means you're about to get gypped out of about $150,000 in portability. Ideally, you want to fix these mistakes the year before you would go to sell your home, because once you sell your home, it's too late. You can't fix it. Now, another concept that people have a lot of trouble with is, let's say that I sell my home now in September of 2020, and then I go and I establish my new homestead by the end of next year, and I go down and I file for homestead, but I forget to file for portability. A lot of people do this. It's okay. If I remember in the future that I forgot to file for portability, if someone tells me, or if I get a homestead check, then I can just go down and file the DR 501T form, and I can start getting portability in all my subsequent years. Now, they're not going to send me a refund check for the years that I forgot to file for it, but I will be able to get it in future years. A lot of people think that if you forgot to file for portability for more than 2 years or something like that, that it's lost and you can't ever get it. That is not the case. As long as you establish your new homestead by the last day of the following year, you're eligible to file for the portability. It's there. It's sitting there. You haven't claimed it yet, but it's still there. And guess what? You can claim it all the way up until the time you sell your home. So if you're a listing agent, you got to be asking yourself, wow, is there a chance that this house that I'm about to sell that's a homestead property, that these folks filed for homestead but didn't know to file for portability? And if they had a home before this one, they could have accrued portability that didn't get moved into this home that I'm about to sell. So if I could catch that, I could tell them they can go file a DR 501T. They can pull that portability into the current home that we're about to sell so that it can be passed forward to the next home and work your way up to the $500,000 maximum number. That's the name of the game. Okay, so let's show an example of how some things can happen to people. This is an actual closing that took place in North Florida, or Northeast Florida, well, actually down in Daytona, back in February. You can see that these folks, Mr. and Mrs. Beatty, they sold their home that was located at 164 Key Colony Court in Daytona Beach Shores, and they sold it for $645,000. Mr. and Mrs. Beatty, please don't get mad at me for using you as an example. This is public knowledge, so I feel free to talk about it. But you sold your house for $645,000, and so our target market value, what we would have hoped that the market value would have been, was 85% of that number. And as you can see here in red on the deed, 85% of that would be $548,250. But let's take a look over to the right at their property record card from the property appraiser. And as you can see, their market value, now it says just value, and just so you know, just value and market value are the same thing. They're interchangeable terms. Some counties will call it just value, some counties will call it market value. But these folks, just or market value was only $303,000, $303,728. And look to the right over there, their homestead savings, they had $0 in homestead savings, also known as portability. So Mr. and Mrs. Beatty, because of that, lost out on $244,522 worth of portability, which at the average tax rate of 2% equates to them having to pay $4,890 a year more in taxes on their next Florida home than they otherwise would have had to pay had this been corrected before the closing. Now, how do you correct it before closing? There's a process that the state establishes. A homestead check will tell you exactly what you need to do to fix it, and we will help people who don't necessarily want to handle it themselves. But Mr. and Mrs. Beatty could have gotten this fixed, and then they would have had almost a $5,000 a year lower tax bill on their next Florida home. So let's talk next about exemptions. So everybody knows about the $50,000 standard exemption, which is going to save you about $1,000 a year on your tax bill. But there are almost 30 more exemptions. They lower the taxable value of the home. Some of them have to be filed for every year because they're dependent on your income or your military status or disability status. And they can be based on age, disabilities, military status, service, income, the time you've spent living in the home, damage from named storms or hurricanes or catastrophes, and even a granny flat. There's a granny flat exemption. It's difficult to find them all, and many times they're overlooked. An example is the long-term senior exemptions. If you're 65 years old in Florida or older, and your income is below about $31,000 a year, that's the adjusted gross income on your federal tax return, there's an additional $50,000 exemption that you get, which saves, again, about another $1,000 a year on your tax bill. Now, if you meet both of those criteria, you're over 65 years old, you make less than about $31,000 a year, but if you've also lived in the home for 25 years, and if the market value of the home is less than $250,000, then you are eligible for what's called the super senior exemption, and you don't have to pay any property tax at all. And we believe that only about 20% of the seniors in Florida that are eligible for that exemption have even filed for it. Now, I will say that the super senior exemption and the additional senior exemption are both ones that have to be approved by the county and the municipality of the taxing district, but most counties and taxing districts have approved them throughout Florida, but that's just an example of one where people don't know about it, they don't apply for it. There's also one if you're in the military and you're on active duty status and you're outside the United States and you're deployed, you basically get the same percentage off your tax bill as the percentage of the year that you were deployed. So if you're deployed 50% of the year, you get 50% off your tax bill. If you were deployed the whole year, you don't have to pay any taxes at all. One of our salespeople is in the Army National Guard. He's a helicopter pilot. And after he got trained with us, he went back and talked to his squadron, and no one in the whole squadron knew about this. And they had all been deployed to Afghanistan the year before. So they all paid property taxes that they didn't have to pay. Now, a homestead check, one of the advantages to it is it will walk people through a series of questions, and it will determine what exemptions they're eligible for. You won't miss a single exemption if you use a homestead check. So how can we help? It is an easy two-step process. We call it a homestead check. You just go to FloridaHomesteadCheck.com, you answer a few easy questions, and in a matter of seconds, you'll have a complete property tax analysis. It pulls information from the Department of Revenue's tax records, It does algorithmic analysis, it does market value analysis, and it figures out if you have forgotten to file for portability, if your market value is off and needs to be adjusted, if you've forgotten to file for an exemption, or sometimes even you've forgotten to file for homestead. We had one the other day, a lady was refinancing her home and her title agent runs homestead checks on all of their files and found out that here she'd lived in this home 7 years and never filed for homestead. And her response when she was told about it was a very common one. It was, well, I thought that the homestead automatically rolls over from one home to another. She was wrong, it didn't. She had lost out on 7 years of homestead savings. So a homestead check will find all of these things. The second step is you just call Sun Tax Save and you have a personal consultation with one of our property tax specialists. You can ask any questions you have. You can ask them to coach you or give you some more information about how to fix things, or you can talk to us about how we can fix it for you. A homestead check only costs $175. If you look to the right now, I've brought up how a homestead check looks, the analysis summary. You see here that on this one it identified about $7,400 a year in savings. It shows that part of the problem is this person had forgotten to file for portability and had almost $125,000 in unclaimed portability. It also shows that their market value was off. They had a market value on the tax rolls of about $441,000 and it should have been about $749,000. They had also missed filing for an exemption. So the homestead check figured all this out, and then it will give the step-by-step instructions on how to fix it. And each step even has a video with it that you can watch that is me explaining to you how to get through that step. And it's like baking a cake. If you follow the recipe, you will have a good cake. If you don't, you won't. We get a lot of people that call up and say, I got my homestead check and the property appraiser won't make the adjustment, he won't do anything for me. And we say, well, what did you do? And basically they say, I called up and yelled at the property appraiser. And we don't have a step that says call up and yell at the property appraiser. There are very specific steps to what you have to do. So if you don't follow them, you won't have a good result. If someone's willing to follow the directions, they'll have a good result. If not, you might want to consider us helping you with it. So the whole purpose of our company is to save your clients money. But the reason we're taking the time to make this video and reach out to all you real estate agents and you title agents is because we really can't do it without you. If you were to line up 1,000 people and that were buying or selling a home and tell them there's this complicated stuff about property tax and it could cost you a bunch of money, almost all of them would say, well, I'm not worried about it because my title agent or my real estate agent will handle that stuff for me. They think in their heads that you do handle this for them, whether you do or not. So they really trust you as an advisor to lead them through the process. If you take the time to tell them about these issues and point them to a source of assistance, they'll listen to you and they'll do it. If you say it's no big deal or you don't tell them about it, then they won't check into it and they'll lose the money. So you're a trusted advisor to these folks. We don't really want you to try and become an expert on everything because we understand that it's confusing. We just want you to point out the issues to them and let them know that there's someone that can help them. You can do this and cover all the issues by using our homestead disclosure. It's an easy to use form that we've come up for realtors to use that basically just walks the client through the issues and makes sure that they know where to go to get a homestead check if they want to get one. We also have some other resources for you. We've created the Realtor Assistance Center. It's free for you to register. It takes less than a minute. And if you register on the Realtor Assistance Center, you can download a personalized homestead disclosure. And get this, you can also send your clients a $50 off discount code for getting a homestead check. So they won't have to pay $175, they'll only have to pay $125 and you'll look like a hero. Not only will you be saving them money on the homestead checks find significant issues that need to be addressed about 40% of the time. Think how diligent everyone is about running a municipal lien search. How often does a municipal lien search or a title search find anything? Really, and when it does, how much money is involved? And we're telling you that, and we run lots of homestead checks every day, that we find about 40% of the time they find significant things that need to be addressed. That's how misunderstood this stuff is. So we encourage you to use the Realtor Assistance Center. It's free. And coming soon is Winston. Florida's most accurate payment calculator. Winston is going to be free to use, and the difference between it and other payment calculators is it will accurately calculate the property tax portion of the payment and the insurance portion. We can't say the insurance portion is 100% accurate, but it's way better than anything out there. And the property tax will take into account things like portability so that folks know much more accurately what their payment is going to be. So here's an example of how the homestead disclosure looks. This is one we've done with the Kais Company. We have a partnership with the Kais group of companies in Southeast Florida. All 4,000 of their agents are encouraged to do homestead checks with their clients, and they use this homestead disclosure. So if you're a listing agent, the example is you're at the listing appointment, you just say really quickly, I appreciate you letting me list your home and helping you through this process. I'm going to try and take really good care of you. I want to tell you that there's some complicated things with property tax that need to be checked on as early in the process as possible. There's a company that can help you with it called Florida Homestead Check, and normally it's $175, but I'm going to send you a discount code for $50 off so you can get it for $125, and you can have all this stuff checked on. If you want to go down and spend the day at the property appraiser's office and maybe still not get the scoop or get yourself all confused, you're welcome to do it. You're welcome to study it online, however you want to handle it. But there is an easy resource here for you to use, and we want to make sure that you know it's available to you. So the homestead disclosure is 3 pages, and then it has a place to sign where they just acknowledge that you told them about it. You stick it in the file, and that way, if they forget to file for homestead, if they forget to file for portability, if their market value was way off, if there was an exemption they didn't file for, then you have given them the opportunity to correct this mistake early in the process. And if you're a title agent, you can protect them by just running homestead checks on all your files. We have a lot of people through Florida that do that. Here's the slide for the Realtor Assistance Center. Registration takes less than a minute. Again, you can give your clients a branded $50 off coupon, and you can also go on there and type any residential property tax related homestead question for free. We'll get back to you the same day with an answer. We'll call you back to discuss it with you. Our goal is to help bring all of Florida's realtors up to speed on these issues. You also get the branded homestead disclosure for free. And this page to the right shows you how the Realtor Assistance Center registration actually looks. As you can see, it's just your name, email, phone number, your brokerage name, your license number, and your brokerage address. It takes less than a minute to register, and it's free. And occasionally, we'll send out a little newsletter or update on changes in the homestead laws that you'll find helpful. That's the end of our presentation. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you do have any questions, I would encourage you to go to Florida Homestead Check and just click on what realtors need to know. And you can read through all of this information. We've got a lot of neat graphs and charts that make it easy to understand. There's also another video called How Do You Handle Homestead that's a little longer than this one. And then this video will be there as well. So these are some great resources for you to use. We hope that you'll use them, and we hope you'll at least tell your clients there are some important issues involving the homestead laws and portability, and make sure that they know that we're here to help them. It's probably the best $175 or $125 that they've ever spent. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen today, and best of luck.